And now, ladies and gentlemen,
Put your thumbs up and say it's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, Tickety Boo, everything's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, son. Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo.
Hello and welcome back to Tickety Boo. It's okay not to be okay is an easy thing to say. We've said that on this podcast more times than I can count. It's our tagline, it's in our artwork, it's the thing we say to our listeners when we want them to feel less alone. And today, we're going to prove it. Because today, for the first time, it applies to us, the three of us, having an honest conversation about this thing called life. Welcome back to Tickety Boo. This is an episode called State of the Nation. I've got Phil with us.
Hi.
Welcome back, Phil, and Iona. We each have one question that we're going to be answering today, and it's going to be asked by somebody that knows well enough if we're not going there. So, Phil, because you're the guest today and your first batch with us, we'd like to go to you first, if you're okay with that. So, Phil, you spent decades being the voice that people woke up to every morning on radio, and then you made a decision that a lot of people in your position maybe have struggled to make a major career change. That was quite a big life choice. Underneath the surface, what was going on for you to make such a big decision?
I think, as ever with something like this, there's more than one factor with something like this. So, the nature of doing a breakfast show and being an alarm call at 4:30 in the morning, being on air and awake, and actually able to string sentences together fluidly and make some sense out of that at 6 a.m. in the morning, to come off air at 10, to then be in another meeting at 10:30, 11 o'clock, and still be on top of your game 2, 3 in the afternoon. That's a very attritional existence. So having done that for 6 years, and don't get me wrong, there'll be people who are much better equipped at it and are much more natural at that. I've come from a lifestyle that was kind of like later in the day skewed. I started out as a club DJ. My working day was what we used to call the other 9 to 5, So it's a huge shift to make. It was almost, you were putting your body through a trauma every day when that alarm went off. Loved the job, loved the show, loved the fact that we had a successful product. But always in that, every 6 weeks, every 8 weeks, you had to plan your vacation time, your holiday time, when you took breaks very carefully. Because if you didn't, let's say you went 6 months without a holiday, right, that really would take its toll. And the level of commitment, the drain on you to do that, meant that there were regular points in those 6 years of doing that breakfast show where I wouldn't then operate very well myself personally. So that would involve going back to bed in the day for naps, and naps not being a 40-minute nap, but then end up spending 3 hours in bed and not waking up till 6 in the evening, and then you weren't tired to go to sleep at night, and then you weren't sleeping at night, and then you just got into this really negative downward spiral. So healthy wasn't being very healthy, wasn't being very good to myself in terms of then diet, exercise, everything around that. So then you had to go, right, I can either carry on doing this and probably take 10 years off my life if I carry on doing this, or just have a very brave conversation with someone and go, I don't think you're getting the best out of me, and I'm certainly not getting the best out of doing this. Is there another way I can do this?
Yeah, totally. But I imagine as human nature is in these situations, we know what's the right thing to do and what we need to do, but it's not always the easy thing to do, is it? And I always say, if you're doing the right thing, it's normally not easy. Was there a period of time where you knew you had to do that, but maybe kick the can down the road a bit?
Yeah,
or?
Probably a good year or 18 months where I knew I had to make that decision, but didn't want to leave the show because I love doing the show, and I knew it was going to cause disruption for the team around me, because I knew the minute I did that, then the BBC would then see that as an opportunity to refresh not just the presenter but the team around it. So that would affect the team around it. So then you're responsible for them as well. So yeah, there was a good period in which I kicked the can down the road, but I could also see what it was and also, by the way, had to work out what it was I was going to do next. You know, it was a question of like, you wake up one day and go, I don't want to do this anymore. Right, I know I'm not going to want to do this anymore, but what can I be doing when this finishes? And how long will that take me to get there?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And I think there's a lot of people who certainly get to a point where they want to pivot, or they realize actually this successful thing I'm doing actually isn't fulfilling me anymore, or actually I want to do something else. I'm sure for our listeners, they'll go, oh yeah, like I've had those moments. I certainly have. Something I wanted to pick up on that you said is when your sleep started suffering. So all the things that keep us well and keep us functioning, the sleep, the exercise, the eating well, all those things are always the first things to go when we're getting overwhelmed, when we're getting stressed, when we're just in that spiral. And I think that's also something our listeners might recognize. Because I know when I'm like, I start not sleeping well and all those things that keep me sane are the first things that have gone. Yeah. And then you wonder why the wheels are spinning and nobody's home.
Yeah. And I think, again, with time and having this happen 2 or 3 times, you can spot that happening. And oh, hang on a minute. Oh, I've not cooked for myself for 3 or 4 days, have I? And I've not eaten really well for 3 or 4 days. And I certainly haven't had 8 hours sleep thanks to this sleep app I've got. You know, had 8 hours sleep in a block for a fortnight or something. So, yeah, you know, you talk about alarm bells, they were there, you know.
Yeah, sometimes, isn't it, you can see the pattern.
Yes.
You can see the problem. But between that and the solution, there's like this messy middle.
Yeah.
If I do that, then that's going to happen. How do I handle that? How are they going to respond to that? Oh, I'm feeling a bit of discomfort here. Let's avoid.
And the other thing is also accepting that other people's perception of the decision you make will not align with your reasons for doing it. There'll be a lot of people in my walk of life will go, well, why is he giving up a primetime breakfast show to go and work, as I do now in the evening? Well, that's a demotion, surely, isn't it? And I think, again, you've got to park other people's perceptions of what the job is. Why would you give up a breakfast show? Well, I've done it for 6 years. It was very successful. Thank you very much. What's next? And if the next thing is also helpful for me healthily, and I can see I could do this now for another 5 years, whereas the dread of the thought of doing the breakfast show for another 5 years, and it was a dread, that's the point where you go, all right, something's got to give here.
Yeah, because I think that, I don't want to use the word ego, but it'd be quite easy of going, well, who am I if I drop out of this high status here? And actually having that ability to go, I have nothing to prove. I've done it. I've been there. Yeah. I'm now doing it for the reasons for me and, what works for me. And actually putting yourself first. Yeah. For a lot of people, doesn't feel natural, does it? Because we're so used to thinking about everyone else.
One of our BBC bosses just recently we had a sit down and went, so how's it going? The new show, and how do you feel about it? And the one word I came up with was grateful. I was like, I'm so grateful that I've been able to sort of leave that, but still be on the air, still get to do the job I love, but now it fits much better with my life and my life around it. And and people say, we can see the difference in you. We can see, oh my God, you look just so much better. Well, if you can do that, if people can see that difference, then it really was the right decision.
Yeah. And I think the key thing in, the takeaway from that is you can still, there normally is a way to keep doing what you want to do. You don't have to keep doing it the way you've always done it. Yeah. But we sometimes get so in it that we can't find a way out.
Yeah.
Well, that's the definition of madness, isn't it? Keep doing the same thing and repeating it.
So
you want it to change.
Making the decision, committing to the decision, and then allowing the rewards to come back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And remembering why you made the decision.
Yes. And I think that's the other thing is that you then, understandably, after you've made the decision, then we'll question, have I done the right thing? And that's having that reminder, but also then, positive reaction when you have done that. Hopefully embeds that and embeds the reasoning behind it.
Totally. Well, I have to say you fared your question very well.
Thank you.
Iona, we're going to turn attention to you now.
Okay.
You've carried more loss in the last few years than most people carry in a lifetime. But during that process, you've continued to show up for everyone around you. What I'd like to ask you is, what does it feel like from the inside when nobody's watching you carrying that?
It's quite literally the image that comes to mind. It's the swan. You look like you're doing it. You look like you're coping, and underneath you're frantically paddling away. And I didn't realize quite how much I was taking on, because you keep on going. And also it was over the course of a few years, if you said, and that included my brother and my dad and a number of friends, and it's been insane. And looking at it now, I was barely keeping it together personally. Like, I was showing up for the people I work with and doing all that. You were really great at holding me accountable and going, I asked you to check in on me, and I knew when I was saying I'm fine, I'm not fine. Anybody who says they're fine when they're going through like this amount of loss, that's, you're lying to yourself. And I agreed with you. And so you were always checking in with me. So it was asking people to check in with me. But then we know, and I've shared very publicly, that I literally fell to the floor in my dad's farmhouse when it came time to clearing that out. So it wasn't actually the fact that I had to clean out the farmhouse. It was the accumulation of the last number of years. And I reached my breaking point and literally fell to my knees on the floor. And then I got to do that reevaluation moment. It's like, right, what am I going to let go? Because I honestly hadn't really dealt with the loss of my brother. And it's like, okay, what's important to me? What am I going to do? What am I going to focus on? And I let a lot of things go that a lot of people said was crazy. Like, well, that's where a lot of your money's coming on. That's your income. What are you going to do instead? And I couldn't physically do it. So it went, and I did bare minimum, and gradually everything wound down. And a lot of the programs I was running, I met my commitments, and then I just stopped, because I had to take that time out for myself, because otherwise I was trying to rebuild my life on a completely fractured foundation.
That's really interesting. So what did this whole process teach you? What have you learned? If you could look back and reflect and see maybe, opportunities to learn to do things differently, what would you do differently, do you think?
Well, what would I do differently? It all happened in such quick succession. I don't think there was a lot of breathing space to do things differently in the moment. In reflection, I see that a lot of my training, I wasn't always listening to my own advice. So I take that on, practice what we teach and what we preach. And also it's taking more time to pause and find those moments, because that's where the clarity comes through. That's where the amazing ideas come through. And to be okay with stepping off the hamster wheel. I think we all get caught up into that treadmill, the doing and building and growing, like, and that hustle culture. And it's like, letting go.
I kind of find a synergy between the two of you there. Different circumstances, but at some point you've had to be prepared to let something go.
Well, and I was going to ask about people's expectations, right? Because people had a very different expectation of, what they felt I should have done and what they felt I should be doing. You must have had that, been surrounded by that.
Yeah, and I think it was depending on the loss, depended what people thought I should feel. So a lot of that, I've also had somebody move into my house for end-of-life care. A lot of people couldn't have done that. That was actually easy compared to everything else. The loss of my brother, people didn't want to talk about it, but we were really vocal. And that was the best thing that came out of that, because I've been contacted and people have messaged the show that being open to talk about it. So the ripple effect of losing someone to suicide has been amazing. But you're really good at that, and what are you going to do? Or people expected me to feel worse when my dad went. So other people's expectations was actually a reflection of how they would have handled the different losses and griefs. So they would project onto me. I didn't take any of that on, but we've been working in well-being and mental health for, a long time.
Yeah, you'd have been equipped to
Yes.
make that differentiation, which other people
Yeah.
would not.
And even then, it was hard.
Mm.
And it was definitely the letting go of, I had to be willing to let go of everything, like let go of great for greater.
That's a great line. That is a really good line, isn't it? Yeah. But we invest so much energy into not letting go and clinging on fiercely through fear.
Yeah.
And even clinging on to stuff that we know is no longer serving us, is not good for us. Yeah. But it's familiar, isn't it? It's like, I know this.
Yeah. I put in the time. I've invested so much.
Yeah. Mm.
So, but what if it could be easier? Like for you, Phil, it's like, what if you can have the hours you want and get back to getting out and raising money for health and charities?
And that's the question, isn't it? And I think you're right to then frame it like that, but it could be, couldn't it? And what would it be like if, and a lot of people are afraid to take that plunge, or, it is a big adjustment to make. And as you say, people are they're better off, they feel, going for the safer option. Okay, where's the comfort blanket? Where's what makes me feel comfortable? Oh, I can't possibly do that. I can't that's too dangerous. It's unknown. Yeah. It's the fear of the unknown there. And actually, you know what? I do this every day, and whilst I'm not enjoying it and it's not good for me, at least I know what that is and what's expected of me. And that's, breaking out of that, is a big mind shift.
Not letting your emotions distort your vision and your decisions. I think once we let emotion dictate where we're going to go, especially fear, we end up just going, I'll kind of stay here, and wonder why we're not thriving.
Yeah. And it can be soul destroying to stay in that environment and not take that change. I mean, imagine if you'd carried on for another 6 years, Phil. Yeah. Whereas then when we get to, I embrace fear, and I've talked about that before, and I've lent into it, but I've made fear my friend. It's like, okay, something's coming up. What's exciting that's about to happen? Because fear and excitement feel the same in the body. Yeah. So you get to look at that. Like a lot of my firsts, when I've grown my business or gone to talk on stages, well, what's the worst that can happen? And this is when I know, okay, yeah, I'm about to up level. I'm stepping into the next thing. So I didn't have fear, but it was that losing control. And we've talked about this. For me, a lot of my childhood behaviors, it's about maintaining control. And so if I let go of everything and I don't know what next, then where's the control? I have no control, and control's an illusion anyway.
Well, it's moving to that point of, do you know what? Whatever happens, I'll handle it. I'll figure it out. I don't need to have this all figured out right now.
It takes an inner confidence to do that. But
it does, and a bit of wisdom and a bit of awareness going, I don't need all the answers. They'll come.
Should we ask Andy a question?
Well, it's been really great that we're going around all these conversations and we're talking really, really honestly and truthfully about some of our own journeys and we're being raw. So our question for Andy is today, because we know how amazing you are, it's showing up for everybody all the time. So if you woke up tomorrow and nobody needed anything from you, who would you be?
Lost. That's actually a really good question, because it's not a question I can wholeheartedly, honestly answer. It's actually something I'm in a phase of my life of figuring out, because when you're used to that serving and supporting, because that's what fills your cup and makes you feel good, stopping that, suddenly that supply's been cut off. How do I replicate that? So really, I think for me, the honest answer is an element of discomfort. And I need to learn to get better in that. Actually, my output doesn't equal my worth. Actually doing nothing is safe. Showing up for yourself is equally as important as showing up
for others.
For others. I think a lot of energy was invested into staying relevant, staying connected, keep feeding the machine, even though you're not quite sure what the machine was or what it was kind of doing. So it's a good question. The honest answer is it's a work in progress.
And we have talked about this before on the podcast and really in episodes when it's been the people pleasing and you've known that this is what you've done in relationships, whether they've been personal or business. And on a really practical level, because I see the difference over the decades, what is it that you now make sure you do to bring some more time for you and to put yourself first instead of last?
I think it's really making a conscious effort to create me time, where if you've had, well as I do in my life, periods of high activity, doing, then balancing that out with the reverse of that, where what would happen is I'd go through a high period of doing and achieving, and then I'd be like, right, we've done that, stamp on the accelerator pedal and go faster, go harder, go longer, go better. And most of that was done from a position of fear. If I'm not doing that, I'm regressing, I'm slipping back, I'm losing status. And also I think an element of that was performing to the invisible audience. Those that are watching.
100%.
And I think my pivot, my power move was learning to get more comfortable at not giving so much of a shit what other people think. And they very probably aren't thinking it. No. But actually learning to believe that in yourself, that it's like, do you know what? They're all wrapped up in their own stuff. And, then there's not this audience going, oh, why has he decided not to do that?
What's the difference between being kind to yourself and giving yourself that space that you spoke about there, and you not saying to yourself, well, that's just lazy. I'm being lazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if you are quite driven, which you are, and certainly when it comes to, the welfare of others before your own, then surely the self-accusation will kick in. I'd have thought something.
Totally, yeah. But I fell into this false fallacy of activity, constant doing was growth. It was striving. And actually, weirdly, today we've had this moment where we were forced to stop. There was some work going on here and there was some noise, so we had to down tools. And we spent a good period of time chatting. And I actually realised, see, when you're not doing, the good stuff happens.
Yeah.
The ideas, the creativity, the conversations. And actually, it's like, sometimes you need to be selfish and go, time out.
Yeah.
And in time out, I have, when I'm walking the dog or, I'm just sitting in the morning with that coffee going, great, I've got nowhere to be. And my brain goes, here's a great idea. I'm always coming up with ideas. Some of them are terrible. Some of them turn into things. But actually going, you putting yourself first is not lazy. Self-care sometimes involves you being, I don't like the word selfish, but like putting you at the front of the queue rather than the back of the queue. Because there was a lot of people in my life that were like, we like you putting us at the front of the queue. Keep doing that.
Okay.
And what I noticed is when you put yourself first, those people tend to disappear because they're not getting what they need from the situation anymore, if that kind of makes sense. And I used to be like, oh, that's really uncomfortable for me. Revert back to type, pull them back in. Everyone's happy. I'm not totally happy, but I'm comfortable now because no one's angry. Keep going. And now it's just like, just don't give a shit.
If you can get to that point, that's really healthy. But also, I think it's life sieve, isn't it? You've managed to sieve out all the stuff that's gathered at the bottom there, which actually probably wasn't doing you any good anyway, because it's the leftovers. 'Cause that's what a sieve is, isn't it? Really. And you've just turned the sieve upside down. You're like, thank you very much. I'm going to wash all that down the sink.
I think the real the core wound that was driving it was, if you don't stay productive and you don't deliver and you don't step up, people leave. So it's like an abandonment wound.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was actually sitting in the discomfort of doing nothing and risking people not leaving,
Yeah.
if that kind of makes sense. Because it's like, oh, he's not demonstrating his worth. Right, we're off. See you later.
Wow.
So there was an abandonment wound there, which I can see from where it's come from in my childhood. I'm like, that's it playing out in adult life. See the pattern, press the pause button, and step away.
Great recognition.
And just like you chose yourself because of the change in your radio career, you chose yourself by dropping everything and stopping to focus on what you had to go through. I had to do that in my own little way. To go, I'm going to choose myself.
Yeah.
And I think so many of us don't choose ourselves.
No.
We choose everyone else, don't we?
Yeah.
This invisible audience kind of thing.
I love that.
That we conform to. Okay, so before we wrap this episode, one last thing from each of you, if you don't mind. Phil, we started talking about the cost of not choosing yourself. Having sat here and said all that out loud, what would you want to say to the listener about choosing yourself?
I think it's very important that you do that, and it's okay to do that, because a lot of people will feel instinctively like they've been selfish, will go through the kind of turmoil that clearly, you've had in doing that. And it's all right to do that. And actually, you'll be better for those people you feel you're selling short if you do that for yourself, because then once you've got over that and had the growth and the time and the fulfillment that comes with that, then you'll be infinitely better for all those people that you're worried about.
Iona, what would you like to say to the listeners?
Fill your cup up first so that you can pause in that and you get to choose what great or greater could be.
It's like being on the plane, isn't it? Put your own oxygen mask on before helping others.
Yeah.
We hear it loads of times, like,
It's a metaphor. For
yeah, and you've got to do it, haven't you? And it actually does feel quite uncomfortable when you start to do that for yourself.
So what would your last golden nugget be for the audience?
Mine would be learn to get better at being uncomfortable, because that's where change happens. If you can learn to sit in discomfort and move through it, that's where freedom comes, and all the good stuff's on the other side of that. You can't. We've got to lean into the discomfort rather than leaning away from it.
It's good.
Great. Well, I love it. When we stop performing, life just gets a little bit better, doesn't it? Huge thanks to Phil for your honesty and sharing with us. And Iona, as always, you know what you mean to me and the podcast. Very much appreciate it. To you guys listening, please share this episode with anyone you think may need to hear it. And as always, we look forward to catching up with you in the next episode of Tickety Boo.
Before we go, if you're going through something right now, please do talk to somebody. A friend, a family member, anyone you trust. And if you need a bit more support, contact your GP or NHS 24 on 111 or the Samaritans on 116123. They are always at the end of a phone, or alternatively, visit the Peace of Mind website. Links are in the episode description. You are not alone in this. Take care of yourselves. Catch you in the next episode.